To all brothers and sisters who are scattered in all corners of the earth, Shalom, Sanbonani, and welcome to this channel. My name is Mpumelelo. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your support, thank you for your love, thank you for subscribing to this channel. A special thank you to those who joined us in the past week. You're welcome. Karibu. If you have not subscribed, please consider to do so. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell. Share this video with your friends and family. Before I get into today's topic, I just want to clarify something that might have perhaps caused a bit of confusion to some who did not understand what I meant. Last week I was saying that we were given the 10 matters, 10 words deliberately to separate them from all the laws that needed judges, that needed the temple, that needed officers to enforce it. These 10 matters, if we meditate on them, and that's the word I use, I said we must meditate on these words. And some people seem to think that by meditating, I mean that's what they must just do, meditate. But when you meditate, you internalize these words. They become part of you and you live by them. So when the Almighty said to Joshua, who took over from Moshe, Joshua or Yehoshua, who took over from Moshe, he said to him, "This book of the law shall not depart from your lips or from your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, that it may be well with you." Now, to meditate means that you must internalize these words. These words must live within you. And I explained what meditation means. In Hebrew, it comes from the word Haggah, and it means to continuously to speak while you consider these words. Speak these words. If it were possible, we were supposed to know the Torah by heart. And that's what we must strive to do, to know the Torah by heart, meditate on the words. But we can read if we don't want to memorize and internalize these words. So with the 10 matters actually shrink all these laws into 10 matters. And these are the words that we must meditate on, internalize them, live by them. So if you meditate on these words, it is impossible to then steal, because the 10 matters say do not steal. It is impossible to I shouldn't say use strong words as impossible, because we are fallible as human beings, we are fallible. So we need to meditate on this so that we don't fall into traps. We meditate, but as we meditate, we live by these words. We don't just meditate, but we internalize them so that they become part of us, so that we know that we serve the creator of the universe, the King of kings, the creator of heaven and earth and of all things. And he is one, in spite of all the stories that we hear, that people tell us that he is three in one. So that's what I meant. I meant meditation. I meant internalizing. I meant living by these words. Okay, let's move on now to today's topic. And today's topic is going to be a little bit light. It's not going to be heavy on the scripture, but it confirms what the scripture says. Perhaps I'm going to swallow my words because I might end up quoting some scriptures. But anyways, it's not intended today. I would like to urge you to read the books written by, one of them is written by our brother, Dr. Rudolph Windsor. He is in the United States of America. He is among the few brothers who enlightened us very early. I think he's written his books. This book that I'm talking about, its title is From Babylon to Timbuktu. Timbuktu is in Mali, here in Africa. From Babylon to Timbuktu. So, what is he talking about? He's talking about the exile of our forefathers who were exiled in Babylon, and they were in Babylon for 70 years. Some of them did not return to Jerusalem or to Israel. Some of them began the scattering, and they went to Africa by boats, and they found themselves, some of them in Timbuktu, some of them found themselves in all other parts of Africa. There's another book written by Heinrich Gres, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Heinrich. He must be German, judging for the name. Heinrich, German, maybe Russian, I don't know. Heinrich Gres, sounds German. He writes about the history of the Jews who were in Portugal and in Spain during the Inquisition. During the Inquisition, you will know the history of the Inquisition. The Pope passed a law to examine people, the beliefs of people. So if your belief was not leaning towards Christianity and Catholicism in particular, you either had to be excommunicated or killed or expelled. Many of our forefathers who refused to be Christians, many were killed, many were expelled from the countries where they were. So Heinrich writes the books. It has several volumes, I think about 5 volumes. And my goodness, I forgot now which volume is in this one. I think it's the first volume, where he describes these Jews as Negroes. Yeah, you can find this book. Some of them are old, these books. They were written as early as the 1800s. Very old. So, and I think that you can find them, some of them, in the internet archives. I don't know if you can find them in the bookstores. But his name is Heinrich Gres. Graetz or Z. Heinrich. Heinrich, Heinrich. Find this one and find the one written by Dr. Rudolph Windsor. These books will help you to understand that we come from Jerusalem. We come from Israel. This Dr. Rudolph Windsor is one of our brothers, a scholar. He studied Hebrew. He studied the Middle Eastern politics. And he collaborated with quite a lot of other scholars. And he wrote this book. There are several other books that he has written. And he confirms the origin of our forefathers, where Jerusalem is, where Israel, where Judea is, and where our people were taken. Consider where Babylon is. It's not in Sudan. as some of you want to believe. Babylon is in Iraq. The Jews that are called the Sephardim today, or Mizrahi, I don't know, I can't say. But we know for sure the Ashkenazi Jews are not really the Jews that we think. We've always thought that they are the Jews, they are the real deal. Now we know they are not. Because how can they possibly, they have not intermixed with other races, clearly, because they are Europeans. With the Mizrahi, with those that are called the Sephardim, you can see that there has been some intermixing of races. But the interesting thing that this Heinrich Gres is talking about here, he describes these Hebrews, these Jews, as Negroes. He describes them as Negroes, and he says that their children were separated from their parents, and their children were taken as slavery, and they were taken to an island in Africa called Sao Tome. Then it was called St. Thomas. Today it is called Sao Tome and Principe. It is properly called República Democrática de Sao Tome y Príncipe, Democratic Republic of Sao Tome and Principe. If you look at the population of the people who live in the Democratic of the Republic of Sao Tome and Principe, it is melanated people. Those are the offsprings and the descendants of the Jews who were taken from Spain and Portugal, and they were dumped there. That place consisted of criminals and unwanted people. And our people lived there, and they became slaves. Now, if you separate children from parents, it is inevitable that children will end up losing their heritage. They will not remember who they are because they are raised by people who are their slave masters. And this man, Heinrich, says they were raised as Christians. So they lost their beliefs. They became Christians. So you need to be very careful about holding on to this Christianity. Be careful. Examine the 10 matters. Examine your heart and consider the 10 matters. And read not only the New Testament, but read where Christianity comes from. We were enslaved and we were converted to Christianity. The same thing happened to those who were taken to to Haiti, those who were taken to the United States of America. They were separated from their parents. And when they were separated from their parents, they lost their language. That's why they were given English languages, English names. They were Christianized, changed their names, changed their identity, and changed their culture. The same thing happened to those who remained in Africa. They were colonized, their names were changed, their beliefs were changed. They were in a way coerced or forced into being Christians. But how then did we end up speaking these different languages? Now the Bantu, you can tell that at some point they lived together and spoke one language, because there are several words that are spoken that are common among all of us, the Bantu, and we are scattered in the sub-Saharan region of Africa. It is amazing that there are certain words, many words that we share among each other. But the way in which our languages are formed, it is the same way as Hebrew. You have a root word, and you'll have a suffix and a prefix in that word. And the word then have several meanings. One word, just like the word Bantu. If you put a suffix and a prefix, you find many words. You find Abantu, you find Abantwana, you find Umuntu, you find many, many, many words, which sent us around being. It sent us around being. So the root word is Ntu there. And when you put suffixes and prefixes, the same word, the same way as Hebrew. You'll find the root word being dam, which is blood, Adam, Adama, and it stretches. The more you put the suffix and the prefix, it stretches. It gives several meanings. So you find those similarities in our languages, which is very interesting. But the important message of today is that let us not be deceived by what we see with our eyes. What we see with our eyes is the richness of the continent where we are. And we begin to believe that the land of Israel will not be rich. We forget that people will be serving us. They will be slaves to us. So whatever riches there are there in the world, they will belong to us. But Scripture does say as well that we will serve the Almighty from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So the likelihood is that a lot of us who are situated here will probably remain here. That I don't know. But what is important is that we have been migrating because of the fulfillment of the prophecies that as we disobey the Almighty, we will be driven out of the land, out of the promised land, and will be scattered in all corners. But of most significance is that we will be slaves. We will be put on chains. There's no other nation that has experienced this. The children of the Jews who were in Portugal and in Spain were chained, were put in chains, and were sent to Sao Tome and Principe. Those who were taken were kidnapped in the west coast of Africa, Nigeria, Congo, and so on. They were also put in chains, and they were enslaved in the Caribbeans, in America, and in Latin America. Now, there's no other nation that has experienced this. None. Not the Ashkenazi Jews. They can talk about the Holocaust, which is a horrible thing that has happened to humanity, no doubt. But it is unrelated to the biblical prophecies, which are cited in Deuteronomy 28. Now, this is very important. So, consider these matters. And I would like to hear your views. It is concrete, it is clear that we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And history is proving that this is true. The first missionaries that came to South Africa wrote their journals and observed that these people are Jews. considering the manner of behavior and their culture and their practices. They concluded. But they knew and they wrote it down. So you denying it and say we are Africans and we are brainwashed, we will give you time to consider these things. Read these books, Dr. Rudolph Windsor, from Timbuktu, from Babylon to Timbuktu, and you will see that, and there are those who say that Southern Africa is Israel. There's no evidence that the Romans came here and built monuments, none. But there's evidence in Israel that the Romans were there and they built monuments. So, if you insist that Southern Africa is the promised land, show us some evidence. Give us proof that there are these, and tell us how we got here. I almost forgot the story, the narrative that is given by the Lemba. The Lemba are telling us how they got to South Africa from Jerusalem, from Judea to Yemen to Ethiopia, and they came down to South Africa. Some are found in Mozambique, some are found in Zimbabwe, and some are here in South Africa. This is proof, and we came from the west and all the way down, and we merged here, and we're all over. We speak the same language, or there's similarities in our languages, which tells you that at some point we were one. We were one people. But we continue the search. Let me know what you think about this. What are your views? Thank you very much for tuning in today. Asante sana. Ngiyabonga.